Thomas, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the invitation. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Looking forward to our conversation today. And I thought we would start with you've sold 12 million copies of your books, I believe, maybe more at this point. But you wrote for 20 years before you actually got published. So you became an overnight success, as some might say.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Touche, as they say.
My real question to you though, Thomas, is yeah, what kept you going? I mean, 20 years of dedication, of writing, commitment to it without getting published. Why do you keep going?
I have been called an overnight success. That is actually the case. It's kind of funny. What kept me going? That's a great way to start because I got the question quite often, especially from my family. Why are you doing this? Why bother when no one's obviously interested? Well, when you are onto something and you think you have an idea, you need to sort of develop it. You need to ponder what could be done here, what could happen there, what could I achieve, what could I actually, uh, could I, could I give something to the world? Do I have anything to speak about that some people might be interested in? For me, it's always been important to do something good. It sounds a bit cliché. I understand that, but I'm Swedish, so we can't brag. We have tiny egos. It's almost illegal to brag in Sweden unless you want to get a punch on your nose or something. But for me, it's something called an aesthetic drive, which means the strive for harmony, not necessarily an artist kind of drive, but I want to achieve harmony in life, some sort of balance. And I was working really, really hard as a banker. I'm an ex-banker. Don't hate me for that, anyways. But and the thing is, I was doing numbers all day long, Excel sheets, and financial advice, blah blah blah. I know, boring. Actually, I did it for 14 years. I never really enjoyed it, which is a stupid thing to say. I enjoyed the people, I enjoyed the team, and I enjoyed being a bank director and leading people. But the work itself, it was kind of boring, and I thought I need something else. I need to do something because the career went swell. I made an okay living. I could sort of climb the career ladder, kind of, and but something was missing. I couldn't figure out what it was. Then I sort of re what's the word? I sort of restarted an old dream about writing books. I started writing horror novels because my if I have sort of an idol or some sort of a role model, it's probably Stephen King of all people. I read him since I was 15, I guess. And so I started to write, and all of a sudden, my whole life kind of balanced up in a way. It's hard to describe it better than that. All of a sudden, the job went easier because I was doing some interesting creative work at the side during early mornings and weekends and so on. And for me, that was kind of what kept me going because in order to survive my sort of paperwork behind the desk kind of career, that wasn't very inspiring. When I did the writing, everything kind of came in some kind of harmony.
Mm.
I call it an aesthetic drive. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with achieving things or winning something or building a reputation or being famous. It's nothing to do with that because for 20 years no one cared at all. And from time to time, I didn't care either, but I kept on going. And the funny story is, I don't know if you read this, but when I published 4 crime novels, actually, no one have read them. It's just, let's not go there. And then I published a book called Surrounded by Idiots. I tried to publish it really, because I am a behaviorist and an economist. I was doing business, working with salespeople and so on. And so I went to my then publisher and said, I have this idea about writing a book about personality styles, behaviorism, interesting communication skills, all of that. And they looked at me with horror in their eyes and they said, what are you talking about? Don't do that. That's just boring. No one is interested in that stuff. You're going to write crime novels. See, that's your job here. So I couldn't sell the idea to anyone. I shopped around the whole Scandinavia really and tried to get someone on board. And they all basically said the same thing. I was the idiot, so I had to publish it myself. And here people really asked, Why did you do that? Because now you're not only risking time, now you're also risking quite amount of money, really, and some effort, and a lot of bad night sleep and so on, bad sleep, and so on. So, but still, I had this idea. This is probably good. If I think it's good, it can't be that bad. If my closest friend said you should keep going, but people within the industry said it's a stupid idea. No, it's an ugly cover. It's a stupid idea. Just don't do it. You just have to. There's an old saying: if you try something and then you fail, people are going to judge you for it. If you try something and you succeed, they're certainly going to judge you for it, which for sure happened to me as well. If you never try, you're going to be judged for that. So it's just a matter of, for what would you like to be judged?
What was the tipping point for you, Thomas, in that journey where you realized I have something here? Where it wasn't just your belief, but it was actually validated.
I self-published a book. We printed 3,000 copies. I said, let's print 10,000. And even if I did the payments myself, I said, I'm going to pay for it. Even that service that was up there said, no, we're going to print 3. Break even is 2,700. And I said, this is not a good deal at all. The breaking point was when we printed 3,000 and 3,000. And then I said, let's print 10,000, please. And then in Sweden, we have a huge book sale in mid-February. It's a national sort of thing. Everyone's quite excited. I'm going to buy cheap books, and I'm going to get everything that I haven't been able to afford the whole year. So it's probably the biggest sale of the year in Sweden, physical books. And we put it out there and we sold 10,000 books in 1 hour. And then I realized, damn, this is good. This is good. This is not bad at all. I'm going to do this. I'm going to continue to do this.
And why do you think you sold that many copies in 1 hour? Was it just you were in the right place at that right moment? Or do you think there was something that you were hitting on about the book? Because obviously people weren't reading the book and then ordering it. They were taking a chance, seeing the book and whatever they learned of it in advance, and then making that decision. So what clicked? What do you think it was that made it so successful at that moment?
I actually thought it was just exposure. All of a sudden, it was everywhere. This took a year to achieve, so it didn't go fast at all. I was struggling with, boxes in the back of my car as management consultant, forcing the books onto people. Here for the group, for the workshop group, take 20 copies. We can share. Okay, take 10, take 5, take a book, please. That's how it started. I did this for a year, but I'm quite persistent when I have to. Stubborn, some would say. My wife would probably call me stubborn. But the point is, when the book got enough exposure to enough people at the same time, people started to talk about it. And I started to see the book popping up on Facebook, on Instagram, and so on and so forth. And I think it's it was a mouth-to-mouth thing, because I didn't have any money for ads. I couldn't do any PR, nothing. I couldn't have the books out there as good as possible and traveling around and doing signing sessions and so on. But I think it was when enough people saw it at the same time, it reached some sort of critical mass, and all of a sudden, boom. And we wallpapered the whole nation with the book for 2.5 years. It was number 1 for 30 months, actually. Then I was a genius all of a sudden.
Have you built a consulting business only to find yourself feeling stuck? Are you tired of relying on referrals, struggling to bring in new clients while serving the ones you already have, and knowing you need to raise your fees but feeling overworked and spinning in circles under a revenue ceiling? The problem isn't your expertise, it's clarity. And that's why we created Clarity 2.0, our newly upgraded coaching experience. Powered by our ROI verified growth system, Clarity 2.0 is designed for one thing: real results. With coaching personalized to you and your business, proven consulting frameworks, intelligent AI-powered tools that accelerate your learning and amplify your results, and a curated global peer community, you'll finally gain the clarity, confidence, and control to take your business to the next level. And the numbers speak for themselves. Over 80% of our clients raise their fees, refine their niche,
or reposition within 90 days. Many double their revenue in under a year. More than 1,000 consultants across 75 plus countries, from solo specialists to multi-seven-figure boutique firm owners, have transformed their businesses through our methodology. And now it's your turn. Head over to consultingsuccess.com/grow and book your growth session call today. It's time to stop grinding and reacting and start intentionally leading your next level of business growth with Clarity 2.0.
Yeah, I wonder how you came with the concept for the surrounded by, because you have now surrounded by idiots, surrounded by setbacks, surrounded by energy vampires. I mean, there's a whole bunch of these, we call it a collection or a series. Where did the original concept come from? I mean, some people would just write a book about personality types, or they would just, but you clearly defined or created this concept that you then continue to reuse or build on. And I'm wondering where that thought process came from.
Well, I can't take any credit for the system in itself. It's based on the old disc profile. We dressed it in colors because it's easy to remember red and yellow behavior instead of a high D or an I with a low C, or an E and TJ personality, So that's just easier. So I used that system. Then I popularized it. I used a very modern day, as simple language as possible, not trying to sound like a psychologist. I don't write for academia. I have no trouble. People wanted to write books, 1,000 pages, and the appendix is like 200 pages. That's fine, but it isn't me. I wrote for average Joe, the man on the street. So I think that was kind of the thing. All of a sudden, if a sales guy is interested in understanding personality so he can sell better, if a manager is interested in it so he can lead better, and so on and so forth. If someone is a coach, he can coach better. If you're a negotiator, you can negotiate if you understand who's on the other side of the table. Those things are quite clear to, I think, everyone's listening to this. But it's a kind of an everyday, I guess you could call it an everyday psychology kind of thing. And everyone who's interested in people, which is basically most of us, should be interested if I used examples from people's everyday lives. So therefore, I didn't only use consultancy anecdotes. I also used, what happened with my wife, with my kids, with my neighbors, with my father, with my yellow sister, and all of that. And I think when people start to smile and they start to laugh, it's this recognition. I've been in that situation. I think that was kind of, I shouldn't say magic, but it's no magic in there. But I think that's where it took off, because people saw, I can use this too. I can use this when I go to this yearly barbecue in mid-July, you see, because of this guy over there. He's usually annoying, but I'm going to test this theory on him and see what happens. And when the book started to spread here in Sweden, I was drowning in emails from people saying, this is super smart. This is actually usable. And even psychologists said, I went to 5.5 years to university. Now I get it. You pointed it out so in such a way I can use it in my everyday life. And I think that's a part of the success. I'm not trying to sound smart here, but I have pondered this for 10 years because, it's been out for 10 years. And then the English translation came in 2019, I think. And then it sort of just took off. 70 languages 2 weeks ago we passed. So that's great. And people have the same reactions all over the globe, from Vancouver to Mumbai, to Canberra, to Warsaw. People say the same thing. I know a guy like this. That's my wife you're talking about. People are basically the same everywhere. Culture differs, obviously, but people, generally speaking, are very much the same. That's kind of cool.
So Thomas, you said red, yellow, green, blue, right? You have the 4 personality traits, right? As you said, based on DISC. For those that aren't familiar with DISC, or even with these 4 different kind of, personality traits, can you describe at a high level, what does red, yellow, and green and blue mean? And for a consulting business owner, how might they benefit from understanding these 4 different types in their business?
Okay, 2 questions in one. Let's see if I can keep this together. Well, firstly, it's a 2x2 matrix based on if someone is watching or listening, at the top you have task orientation, at the bottom you have people orientation. To the right you have extroversion, to the left you have introversion. So you get this 2x2 matrix. And then you get 4 basic, let's say, behavioral traits, let's call them: reds, yellows, greens, and blues. And these two come with specific communication styles. We talk about behaviors, not personalities per se, because that goes actually quite deep. Then you have to add other tools as well, but you can do that. And the red people are task-oriented and extroverts, so they are fast, they are dominant, fast-forward thinkers, very competitive. Some people call them harsh, but they are sort of the winner types, very result-driven, goal-oriented, and so on and so forth, very impatient. The yellow ones are also extrovert, but they are people-oriented, so they are the smiley ones, the happy ones, the shiny ones, can inspire anyone, can sell anything to anyone. They could sell sand to Bedouins and ice to penguins, probably, because, why not? Have you seen the weather? And even though you say it's kind of rainy outdoors today, you say, yeah, but the sun is always shining somewhere, you see? You have to stay on the positive side. And then you go to the introvert side, and then you meet the green factor. They are introvert and still people-oriented. They are looking for stability, calm, kind, very caring, very sharing, friendly people, very open-minded to diversity, let's call it. Everyone's a friend, but they have sort of low-key behavior. Looking for stability, don't like conflicts at all. To be a little bit, keep themselves to themselves, hiding their emotions, because who's watching here really? Excellent listeners, the best listeners in the whole system. And finally, if you go up to the task orientation again, introvert people, blue. Here you get yourself an engineer or a tax sheriff, or maybe, an accountant perhaps. Details, logic, very methodical, and quality driven, all of that. Perfectionistic, some would say. And for anyone who's listening to this, I think there's got to be more than 4 types of people. Of course, these are only the basics. But like when you bake a cake, you need to understand, what is an egg really? What does milk do to the mixture? If you put, more salt in there, what's going to happen then? Sugar, what's going to happen? So you need to understand the basics, because you can mix these in tens of thousands of ways, algorithmically speaking. Let's not go into that. The way you can use it as a consultant, I guess, if you're a consultant, you basically, maybe you have to get your own jobs. You have to sell yourself. You have to sell your persona. You have to establish your ethos and look like someone trustworthy and so on. So when you are in a sales process, it's really good to understand who is on the other side of the table, especially when it comes to negotiations. Who are you trying to convince here? If you are looking at a red person, do not show them the whole offer. Show them the last page. Do never, ever open any Excel sheet whatsoever to red person, or to yellow person for that matter. Give them the last. You just hand. It's going to cost 100,000. That's the price. Why is it so much money? Because I'm the best. Okay, good. That's okay with a red person. For a blue person, you need 700 Excel sheet. You need proof, evidence. You need some sort of references, and you need everything. For a green or a yellow person, you need to look like someone who is interested in people. You need to take it down a little bit and let them speak, let them have their way a little bit, So these are just really, really quick examples. But that's actually not enough, because it's not enough to understand who is on the other side of the table. You also need to understand who you are. That's how I started using this tool specifically, because like with any journey, you're always the starting point. Let's say I called my travel agency. We don't do that anymore. But let's say I did. I called my travel agency up and said, get me a ticket to Vancouver. They would say, no problem. And then they would say, from where would you like to go? Just imagine I told them, never mind that. Just get me the ticket. Don't be so problem focused. Send me the ticket. How will they solve it? The easy answer, it's absolutely impossible. I mean, the journey from Melbourne will be very different from the one from, Stockholm. So you need a starting point. And in any communication story, physical or verbal, or, actually non-verbal as well, you will always be the starting point. So you need to understand, if you are dealing with a yellow person, should you speed up or should you slow down? If you're green, you need to speed up. But if you're red, you actually need to slow down. And these two parts are, I would say, crucial. But if you build your self-awareness, you can be an excellent communicator and sort of gain fantastic people skills. But as you know, Michael, people skills, it works the same thing as with humor. Everybody thinks they have it. Right?
So that makes a lot of sense. And I'm thinking about those who are joining us, listening, tuning in, who are thinking, this makes a lot of sense, Thomas. I can see how understanding the person on the other side of the table would allow me to use a more effective approach that would resonate with them, right? Would be better aligned. But the question that comes up is, how do you know what that other person is, in terms of, if we go to the basic 4 behaviors, the 4 colors of behavior? You're not going to go to a buyer and say, hey, please take your, a disc profile before we have our meeting. So how would you suggest that people understand or try and figure out what color that person is, so they can then use the more effective approach?
The best advice I would say is it depends on the situation, it depends on this, it depends on that. But just to give you an example, I would suggest that you go green yourself, meaning you lean backwards a little bit, you close the lid in the front, and you open up your ears, and you really, really pay attention. You state something, you say something. You don't start with questions. That's actually not usually the best case, even though all sales trades say you have to ask open-ended questions. Yeah, sometimes you do, and at the end of the deal, you need to ask closed questions, and sure. But it's better to say something a little bit, let's say, not dramatic, but maybe a bit provocative, like saying let's say you're trying to sell your services to to a bank, let's say. Instead of saying, okay, how big is your budget? Instead of doing that, you say something like, I read in the newspapers the banks have really big budgets for educational investments this year. Let's just see what happens. And the guy on the other side of the table is going to say, where did you read it? Let me tell you. And then they have to correct you. But when they start to act and they start to talk, you can observe the language, you can observe the body language, you can observe microfacial expressions. You can understand what kind of words they're using. Are they speaking fast or slow? Are they facing you? Are they moving around a lot? Are they using their hands? There's a number of things to look for if you are really paying attention, actually. But you have to make them act a little bit. The best way is not to have them to ask questions, because then they will be a little bit on their, a bit alerted. They know you're trying to sell things. It's better to give a statement, something that is a little bit crazy. It's actually a really good way to start, because they have to act and say something. And the need for correction is really, really strong within people. If you say something really stupid, they have to correct you. Don't look too stupid. Then they won't buy from you.
You've done a lot of work, Thomas, with executives around the world in many different organizations. What have you seen in terms of the impact of exactly what you're sharing with us here, and the body of your work? What kind of results have people experienced when they really listen, they observe, and then engage based on the 4 colors and based on the approach that you teach and talk about in your books?
The first thing is that if you, as I just suggested, if you can figure out who is on the other side of the table, the first meeting is, of course, the hardest one. Some people say to me, well, he didn't move, he didn't speak, he didn't say anything. There's nothing to analyze. Oh, there's a lot in there, that's probably a blue person. Stone face, they had their notebook up and 3 pens and please proceed. It's a lot in there already, but you have to know what you're looking for. You have to start first. You have to stop using yourself as some sort of blueprint for how this is supposed to go. I think everyone who's listening to this is a brilliant person. I'm sure they are professionals, no doubt. However, the client you're dealing with maybe don't know this, so you need to be smart. The best thing, the best results I have achieved is when I frankly try to mirror the other person. When I figure out the higher up in any hierarchy that you reach, the more red you will see. If you start with the chairman of the board or the CEO, my team, we never go lower than the CEO to begin with. Can we open his door a little bit, break it open a little bit? See, can we sort of, no, not break it open, bend it open. Sorry, drawing the Swedish card here. but no, bend it open. Can we put a foot in there? You see, the higher up people, the more impatient people are. If you start with your backstory, well, my company was founded in 1962. Get out of here. No one's interested. Never, ever share that information. They can see that on your webpage if they're interested, but they're not interested. So, but when you make them speak, if you see a red person, you just get straight to the point. You say, okay, I'm here to do business. Are you here to do business? They will say, yes, sure. They won't waste the time. And you can see this. The biggest win is you're going to save time. When you mirror people, if it's red, yellow, green, and blue, or a combination of two or maybe even three colors, if you can mirror the other person, they're going to feel comfortable and they're going to relax and they're going to be more honest and more open to you. So the biggest win is you're going to do better deals and you're going to save a lot of time because you don't have to struggle with showing an Excel sheet for a yellow person who hates Excel or tell them an anecdote from your last weekend to a blue person. They could not care less or waste the red person's time. That's really stupid. I'm sorry to say that's the worst you can do. Could you cut the meeting from 60 minutes to 15? Now you're the hero. If you see, this lady or gentleman, just a second, that's a red person. And you say something like the following, I put aside an hour, but I think you and we can do this in 20 minutes. What do you think? And just see them. Brilliant. Love this guy. Let's get to it. Then you just close the deal.
It strikes me that I'm being able to identify this and understand would be very powerful as an add-on or an enhancement to a CRM for a sales team or for an organization, where if you can quote unquote label so that anyone and everyone knows, is this person green, yellow, blue, whatever, then the approach, right? Everything that you do can be based on that.
We sure have a box for that in our CRM. I can guarantee that. Definitely. So I've had for 15 years. I recommend it absolutely.
You talked about not starting a conversation with, we've been in business since 1962, so on, right? About, obviously people can find out a lot from the other person's website these days. But I noticed that your website, you don't put a lot of emphasis on your mentorship or the work that you do directly with executives. From what I saw, the appearance to me, the spotlight is more on your books. It's more on your lectures. But I didn't see a real focus on consulting work or mentorship work, but I know that you do this. And so I want to hear from you. Why is that? Why is the spotlight not on those things on your website? And how did you get to the decision of where it is today?
There is a specific reason for this. And my website is, as every website, under construction as we speak. The time has passed it and it has to be updated. And I know that. The reason those things are not in there is, how should I put this really? Should I tell you the truth? Well, it's a Ferrari issue. Ferrari don't do commercials. The car brand, they don't do commercials. They say our customers don't watch TV and they don't spend much time online, which is probably not entirely true. Ferrari is a high ticket brand, high level, everything. Everything is just high and expensive, and the products are of course amazing. I have never driven one, but I have two buddies who have two each, and they say you should get one, and I don't know what to do with it. I think it's too costly, and I'm too old to sort of squeeze myself in there. But the thing with Ferrari is they build their brand on scarcity. There's a long line to get a new Ferrari delivered, and the special models, the numbered series, they build like 400 of a specific. Someone asked me for examples. Well, I don't know what the examples are really. it's a red card. A bit of big engine. And you have to be a collector. You have to be a certain person. Just money doesn't buy you a Ferrari. They don't care about the money. They make billions of dollars every year without saying yes to everyone. They keep a low-key profile when it comes to what they are offering, but people know it anyway. My services when it comes to being a coach and a mentor is very limited. My time is limited. I travel 120, 130 days per year all over the globe. I write 2 books per year. I am starting a YouTube channel, working on online trainings, blah, blah, blah. But I do mentorship. But I don't speak about it because I don't bring more than maybe 1 or 2 people on board per year, really. One of my clients actually passed away this fall, so there is a spot, but I will fill it with the right people, the right person. The list of people that I'm mentoring is not long.
Yeah, and was that intentional from the early days? I mean, oftentimes you see that as somebody becomes more established and more in demand, they adjust their strategy or their positioning to kind of compensate or to connect to that. And so I'm wondering, is that a change that you made in more recent years as your brand and your work has become more and more popularized or more and more mainstream, or is that something that you did from even the early days?
Alternative B. I've always done it like this. I've been a coach for 25 years under an umbrella of a consultancy with 18 other people. Now it's my own business since 2007, something like that. When it comes to how you position yourself in the business matrix, let's call it, you can always lower your pricing. You can always lower the cost of whatever, but it's hard to go in the other direction. It's better to start like a sort of a high ticket solution to begin with, and keep it a little bit scarce because I'm doing really good, and that's the way I like it, and I can't help as many people that is requesting my assistance. It is not about money. It's about exclusivity. There's 19 people on the list since one guy passed away, and I speak with each and every one of them every 4th week. If there's something going on, someone is in a great, he's going to sell his family business. He needs some advice outside of the board. We speak every 10th day, perhaps, on Zoom like this. So it's not about how many sessions or how much time I invest in these people. It's about who would I like to work with. And I get requests on a weekly basis from people. Could you do this? Can we have a chat? Can we do this? Can we do that? And I don't want to have it like that. I'm not trying to sound like a big idiot here, but that it has been working nicely for me for almost 2 decades now, and I'm going to keep it that way, as far as I know, at least.
And so you have, in terms of the business or the umbrella, the brand that you've built, you have the books, you have your online trainings and courses. You mentioned YouTube is getting in the early innings, as we might say, and then kind of coaching, mentoring, consulting. What's the makeup in terms of rough percentages or majority minority of your business from a revenue perspective? Is the books the biggest driver in revenue, or is it the online courses, or how would you kind of break it down as much as you're able to share?
You caught me off guard there a little bit because I don't have any exact numbers. The books that's an okay business, but I don't control it at all because I write the books and then I hand it over to my publishers all over the planet, and they do whatever they want with it. Some do it good, some do it horribly bad, and that's just the way it is. It's impossible to budget your book sales because who knows? Who knows? Even if someone like Malcolm Gladwell or Jordan Peterson, these mega stars, They have no clue. If they put out a new book there, no one's going to know it's going to fly or die or whatever. It's impossible. It's absolute. So we can't lean on that. So the business is the bigger part. I'm building a network of affiliates all over the world, the industrialized world, maybe I should say. That's growing as we speak, because we have these personality assessments, the Surrounded by Idiots method that we have established based on the disc, but it's our own way of doing it based on the books connected to leadership, and also drivers, motivational analysis, and so on, assessments, and a couple of more. And I am building a network of affiliates, which is growing exponentially right now, and that is number of consultancies probably in different markets, but that have a great use for these tools. So we train them, where we license them, and we train them, and we give them everything that we know, and then we have quarterly sessions with them, 10 per time usually. And we have some spots in Canada actually. By the way, we have a number of people looking for exclusivity, which is impossible because then I can't control it, and quality matters a lot. So that is growing very much right now, and so we are selling a lot of assessments, actually, courses. Yeah, sure, that too, but workshops and online seminars. It's a variety of things, but the theme is the same: behaviors, everyday communication styles, personality skills, all of these things. It's the same field, but we're using different tools to reach as many people as possible. Some like to watch a YouTube video, some like to read a book. The content is basically the same, but to reach as many people as possible.
And Thomas, the progression of how you built this brand and business, it sounded like you started off, you already doing, you worked as a banker, right? You're an economist. You were doing some management consulting work. You wrote the book. What I'm interested in is if you were just to break down what that progression actually looked like. I mean, were you going in, you were doing consulting work and saying, hey, I have a book, buy the book. And did that lead to more work? And then you added assessments. Like, what was the actual progression from the early stage to where you are today in terms of the strategy or the steps you took to build this?
You're looking for some sort of a roadmap here. How should everybody else do it?
And well, let me give you just one more thing, if I can interrupt for a second. What I'm looking for, what I want to understand is, what did you do? But the second part of this question, which I'm actually even more interested in, is knowing what you know now. Is there anything that you would do different in terms of the order or of decisions that you made or actions that you took?
I would do a couple of things differently, probably. That's the easy part, and I'll get to that. Remind me if I forget about it. I left the banking system in 1999 and became a management consultant full time. I did some internal consulting based on certain experiences in the bank and so on. But I became a management consultant, started to use a variety of the DISC tool, because DISC is not a brand like Myers-Briggs. That's a brand. That's one Myers-Briggs solution, basically. DISC comes in 25 varieties, maybe even more. I don't know. So we were using one of these, and I realized this is a really useful tool. It's really practical. People understand it. People like it. It's easy to do workshop or a lecture based on it, and use it in a number of ways. So I was doing that, and then I was the only one in this consultancy. We were 18 of us. I was the only one with previous management experiences, which meant that I went into the boardrooms quite early on. I would say I was 33 years of age, and they looked at me, and I had to be quite bold to survive out there. But I can deal with red people. Actually, I'm quite good at that for some reason. So we sold assessments, we did workshops. I had this idea because at this time I was struggling, the 20 years writing, nighttime, not getting published where we started like half an hour ago. So I was doing that. slowly but surely, somewhere around 2007, I think, I got the first notes from Surrounded by Idiots is today 18 years old, actually, because I had some sort of embryo in my back of the head. Like, yeah, maybe I could write a book about this. And I presented this to my colleagues, and they say, we do not sell books. We do workshops, we sell courses and so on, live classes and whatever. That was my first mistake. I should not have listened to them. I should quicker listen to my gut feeling, because the gut feeling is based on quite recent research, is more often correct than we might imagine. Actually, that's kind of weird. We are more psychic than we might realize. I should have listened to my inner drive when it came to that. So it took me 7 more years to even put the book together, But then I learned maybe the book would have been different from what it became if I hadn't built my experience. Who knows what's the best way to go? That's really hard to say. But I would probably not listen to people as much as I did. And I was starting to coach people within this consultancy. And then we went separate ways in 2007, actually. And still I didn't put the book together because, now I was on my own, living, and building my own path into the future and so on and so forth. And I started, and then I launched the book and so on. It took off. And all of a sudden I got an international audience, which I didn't have before. I was only present in Scandinavia, but it's kind of the same thing. Norway, Denmark, it's sort of Swedish. Don't tell that to the Scandinavians, but especially the Danish ones or the Finnish people. Never say I didn't.
Scandinavians listening to this, and they're going to hear that.
Yes,
so
they're going to hate me for it, but I think they understand what I mean. The culture, the Swedish culture and the Danish culture and the Norwegian culture, and the languages are kind of we understand each other pretty okay. So we can deal with each other. We can have a great time without feeling like we are we're close neighbors, I would say. But where was I? Well, so the book came out and I realized I have a bigger mission here. I have bigger shoes to fill. And then I really started to understand I can actually contribute to sort of regular people. So I started giving open lectures, evening lectures, selling tickets with a specific kind of provider and so on. And I realized more and more and more that people are actually interested in this. So I did that for quite some time. The best year I did 162 lectures in 365 days. I never slept. I lived in a taxi or on a plane somewhere. It was just crazy. That's not recommendable. Don't do that. Don't fall for the shiny object syndrome there, because I got a little bit carried away. My wife kept me grounded and said, it's good that you're working, you're providing for the family, taking care of us. We love that. But we also would like to see a little bit more of you in real time. So in real life. So, but the roadmap I didn't have a roadmap. That was maybe another mistake. I couldn't say these were the steps because it sort of happened to me. Actually, some things happen. I never considered myself an entrepreneur or some sort of driving force in the world. I saw myself as a sales guy, a behaviorist who liked to edutain people, let's call it, because I'm pretty okay on a stage, really. And I saw people taking in what I was lecturing on about. And so I knew that I was onto something, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew. And people started asking questions. Shouldn't you do this? Shouldn't you do that? We have a proposal here. Should you start affiliate program, which was my wife's idea, basically. So we did that last year. And as I said before, it's growing. What I'm not doing is consulting. I don't have consultants. I have trainers, I have behaviorists, I have salespeople, I have admin and all of that. But I do not do consulting as in gathering small groups in workshops, 20 people, company X. Okay, we're going to define our fundamental values. I don't do that anymore. I've done that thousands of times. I don't like to do that anymore because I'm done with that. And I'm not hiring consultants. If you wouldn't use my tools and do that in your hometown, fine. I would love to help you out. But that's one thing that we're staying away from, because selling time is not a good business, really. because there's just so much time. Going back to the example, if you are selling time, you need to really put the price level at the right level immediately. It's hard to go up. It's easy to, negotiate yourself down from a medium-sized ticket to a low ticket, from a high ticket to a medium. Yeah, that's a tough business. And I've been there for 20 years. I know it's really hard work. And I was struggling in the beginning of my career quite a lot. I don't regret it. It was a good way of learning how to really, putting in the real work there. And I learned a lot. Obviously, I met a lot of brilliant people who trained me and taught me brilliant things. But we're staying out of consulting with people. The only consulting we do is directed towards the affiliates, the partners everywhere.
Right. So you've structured your model that way. Is there anything else that stands out to you looking back in terms of the steps that you took to grow the business to the point that it's at today, or even to develop, promote the books that you would do differently?
Well, again, I never strive to try to be what I am today. And that doesn't sound very inspiring at all.
You just became it.
Reality just fell onto my head or something. I know this doesn't sound inspiring or very useful information. I understand that. I'm sorry to disappoint some of you who's listening to this. But sometimes life provides you with opportunities. And the worst thing you can do is to at least not have a look at them, Of course, you should have a look and say, what is this? Could I learn something from this? Could I do something good? Could I contribute something valuable to the world? Is there something that I can actually give people? Because if you're good at what you do, you're going to get paid. That's for sure. If you deliver an excellent service and you are trustworthy and your ethos is very well respected and all of these things, you're going to get well paid. People are going to respect you. That's for sure. But you're never going to figure out everything. I mean, just look at all of the great corporations in the world today. They didn't have a roadmap either. They tried. They a lot of trial and error, and some of them stumbled. And the people go bankrupt 9 times, and then all of a sudden, now there are geniuses and so on. And some get lucky the first time, like Google or Facebook, based on a stolen idea. But what do I know? So just read about the twins this morning.
Yeah. I think what resonates with me, Thomas, is your story of, number one, you really took the time to develop a body of work that was based on insights. I mean, you took, as you said, this concept that it previously existed, DISC, but you brought it and made it more accessible. You gave it your own unique spin, opinion, and clearly developed something that resonated with the market. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people skim. They try and move too quickly. They don't actually develop true insights. The second thing is that you took the time, I should say, you committed and didn't give up. As you were saying, it took me 20 years to publish. I was thinking about Howard Marks. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's in the investment world, Oaktree Capital or Oaktree Management in the US. And he has this letter he sends out once a month or something along those lines. And he's shared something very similar, that for many years, I think well over a decade, he was writing this monthly newsletter that nobody read or nobody responded. Like, there was just zero. There was no response, but he kept going. And it's because he wasn't just doing it for others. He was also doing it for himself. It was part of his process. And I think that if you're not working in an area that you're truly passionate about or that you enjoy, there needs to be some connection. Otherwise, you're going to give up. But you didn't give up, and ultimately, that's what helped you to create what you have today. So I think that's a powerful message, or multiple messages and little nuggets for people to consider. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. That's a good point. There are a lot of really stupid advice out there. Follow your passion. Follow your dream. Listen to your heart. Don't do that. You can't live on that, really. If I should follow my passion, I would sit alone up in the attic over there writing books 24/7, probably, and never sleep and never eat, or drinking too much whiskey on Sunday afternoons and so on. That's a really stupid idea. Don't follow your passion. you have to find your passion in something that you're good at. If you're good at this, I mean, I was a good banker. That's why I stayed for 14 years. I never loved it. It wasn't horrible all the time, obviously. The people were great. I worked with a lot of inspiring people, and they taught me numbers, really, really useful things. 90% of the stuff was just boring. But I'm good at doing boring stuff. And sometimes you can't just give up because it's a hard day or a hard week or even a hard year. If you're onto something and you're good at it, make sure you find a way to reach the public with it, or the marketplace, or whatever your target group might be. If it's not working, you're doing something wrong, add something. Don't tear it up with the roots and throw it out through the window, and just, no. Do what you're good at and try to find some passion, some energy in there, and accept the fact building a business, and everyone's listening to this and is building their own, they know this. Maybe some new guy haven't heard it, but 80% is going to be a struggle. That is just the way it is. But hey, it's life. I'm too old to listen to this. Oh, you have to feel right and have to feel good. I would love it to feel good every single day, but it doesn't. That's just not this kind of planet, as Jim Rohn said. Great guy, by the way, missed by many. This is this kind of planet. It's a struggle. You have to just buy into that whole concept, I think. But you're right. I didn't give up. I am a bit stubborn. I have a really high blue bar. So if I'm onto something, I'm never going to give up. And I'm getting better and better as the years pass, that to not listen to the wrong people, really. If someone says that's not going to happen, whoa, I have to look into this,
Well, I think your comment about Jim Rohn, right? So, what's you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, I believe, came from Jim Rohn, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think this is a really important point when you're working on building success, or it doesn't have to be in business, it could be in any aspect of life, but making sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right people that inspire you or help you to level up.
You know what I did? I hired the whole family. Everyone is working here. Everyone is working here. It's not only family, but all the family is in here, because they are benefiting the most from me doing good, because I'm not going to be around forever. And my wife is starting to talk about some legacy. And I say, what do you mean legacy? I'm not that old, Yeah, when you can't be on the road, for 20 more years. I say, of course I can be on the road for 20 more years. What are you talking about? No, I'm going to have you at home, and then she'd do some emotional damage to my logical thinking, and who knows. So, but no. So, and the family is always dedicated, and they are sort of bought into this. Some work with admin, some with sales, some with training. And my wife, by the way, she's the CEO. She's the most red person you can imagine. Only red, nothing else. Red, red, red. No yellow, no green, no blue. Just like an L, like this, you understand her immediately.
Well, I have one final question before we wrap up, because I want to be conscious and respectful of the time that we have in the calendar. And that is, you talked about 120 days on the road, you're traveling, you're writing 2 books a year, you're creating online content, courses, videos. You still need time to drink your whiskey on Sundays and, drive your Land Rovers and be out with your dogs in the beautiful Swedish countryside. What's one thing or 2 things that, when you look at how you are able to manage all that, you feel is key to success for you to be not only productive, but also effective? And is there anything that, knowing what you know now, you would have done sooner or started sooner to help you to be as productive and effective as you are?
That I can answer to. I was too slow to hire people, because as an ex-banker, I know how to calculate risk, right? And hiring people is a risky business, because who knows, will they, behave, or will they just cost me money, all of that. So I was dealing with receipts, and filling up the car, and doing some admin stuff, which is really stupid, because I am by far the most expensive asset in this business, in my business. Sorry, not in the business. In this firm, I'm the most expensive person. These days, I should have hired people 10 years ago, but I didn't. These days, I only do what only I can do. showing my face on the camera when it comes to social media or YouTube or whatever, giving lectures live, writing my books. That's all. Everything else I delegate. Literally everything. I don't even, I tell my assistant, you need to fill up my car. No problem, she said. You buy me lunch. I said, sure. That's cheaper than I waste 30 minutes to go. And as we are living, as you pointed out, Michael, on the countryside, it can't fill the car up here. I have to go somewhere, 20 kilometers one way and then 20 kilometers back. How many miles is that? I don't know, but so I only do what only I can do. That's the best advice I could give. Even if you're struggling, you think you're one person or you're two people or you're five people, make someone else do the stuff that you don't have to do. And before you think that's going to be costly, that's going to be costly and expensive, well, it depends on what you do instead. If you're working on your business and developing your business and learning new skills and spend time doing sales, then it's the best investment you can ever do. That sounds so hysterically simple-minded, but it's the truth.
Yep, I totally agree. Yeah. Thomas, thank you so much for coming on. I want to make sure that people can learn more about you, about your company, about all the books that you have out there, as well as the upcoming ones. Where's the best place for them to go? Where would you like people to head over and check all that out?
You mentioned my website. It's called surroundedbyidiots.com. Everything you need is up there. Things will be moving around and it looks kind of old style, which I like. But hey, I'm not in charge of the website anymore. So there you go. But that's the best way to start. You find me on Instagram, probably on LinkedIn and so on. There's a YouTube channel called Surrounded by Idiots. Slowly growing. So yeah.
We'll make sure to link all that up and so people can find their way to it. Thomas, thank you so much again for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.